Hey Scrappers, Tom from iScrap here, and over our last two podcast episodes, we talked about how the energy prices got run up. Then we talked about what we're doing here and now. And what we want to talk about now with our economist Mark is how the energy prices are going to kind of forward predict themselves after the summer of 2022. So without further ado, we're going to bring Mark in here. And Mark, of course, we've already been talking about how we got here, where we are, and now we want to talk about where we're going to go, because everyone likes to know, hey, should I be saving more money today? Do you think the oil prices are going to come down after the summer when it's traditionally the busier driving seasons? Or are there other factors like Ukraine, like Russia, like China's influences on where you see the commodity markets going, the oil markets going past the summer of 2022, maybe even just the last 4 or 5 months of this year? What do you see happening to some of these oil and gas prices after we go past our traditional peak summer season?
Sure. Yeah. So I wish I had a better outlook for
no crystal ball. It's very hazy.
I don't have the crystal ball with me, but I would say all signs are pointing to pretty, steady as she goes, high oil, high diesel, high gasoline prices. And one of the big things that is still, kind of yet to be decided on, because we're a little early, but hurricane season will hit us in the next few months.
I haven't even thought about that affecting the Gulf Coast area.
And that's where the majority of our refining capacity, at least in the United States, is. With that, those infrastructures are subject to flooding, high winds, et cetera, that can bring them offline for weeks at a time. And if you already have a constrained diesel and gasoline market, if a major hurricane hits one of those facilities, I don't want to put a dollar number on what the gas price or diesel price would be, but it's going to go up.
You won't be surprised to see. I mean, here we are, June 9th, recording this at an all-time high of $4.97. If you have a major outage in the Gulf Coast, I mean, we could see $6 by the end of the summer. You could be talking about $7 gas by the fall time if you have the wrong hurricane hitting, right?
I wouldn't see why not. Yeah, I mean, that is something that, it really all depends on, exactly to your point, when it hits, how it hits, the extremity of it, as well as the, time to bring it back. That's
repairs, really, getting people, making sure that things aren't flooded, stuff like that people don't think about.
Exactly. And especially, again, in a very tight labor market, do you have the jobbers and the skill guys that are there to be able to do that? Or are these companies even short on that type of skilled labor, where they might need to contract somebody in, or they might need to bring other people in that could delay the chances of it coming back online as quickly as it would have been in a more normalized labor market. So,
and especially after the Hurricane Katrina incident years ago, where that oil spill was just catastrophic.
Yeah.
When you have hurricanes, these refineries take them as one of the most serious safety issues as possible, right? And to lead it back into the scrap, and how it affects scrap. I mean, you're talking about a worldwide problem that is led by this EV push, right? And EVs are great, electric vehicles, yada, yada, yada. But what do electric vehicles need, right? Maybe you don't think that you need oil or gas, but where's the metals coming from? They're being mined with machines being run on off-road diesel, right? Now you have to take these raw materials, refine them into these cathodes and these plates to make these nickel metal hydride batteries and these lithium ion batteries. That consumes a massive amount of demand of energy, right? And we talked briefly, kind of off camera, about how we're already seeing high oil prices. We're already seeing a push on the grid. So you might not even have charging stations that are getting power to them. So this whole push to electrify the country, you still need oil. You still need oil. It's not going anywhere for the next 50 years. And that's what people aren't talking about. And that's going to affect scrap prices again. What are your opinions on the electrification and how the oil prices are going to affect what we do day in and day out and how the long-term sustainability is.
Yeah. So I think, again, our common theme is you're producing something, it's going to require energy. And to your point about the mining, they are, a lot of miners. There's a lithium shortage right now, which is the main component in lithium ion batteries, cobalt, nickel, all that. There's also shortages with that. And these are all crucial components to getting this EV strategy that, the Biden administration and a lot of kind of progressive environmental groups want to see in the United States. But the problem is you're trying to execute this strategy with all-time high input costs.
It's like the wrong time.
It's just not the right time. Exactly. And it's hard to say, again, with an EV strategy as big as what we're trying to do here in the United States, it's not going to, you wake up one day and say, let's do this. So it's been a long time coming. It's just now this is a really, really large, beyond the scope of the United States energy crisis, Europe.
World problem.
Exactly. So as you're trying to push this forward even quicker, how are they looking at the current energy needs? And there's a pretty big mismatch, I would say, between what is going on in terms of your traditional fossil fuels and our reliance. We don't want to rely on them, but yet you have people going to the pump and going to fill up their cars every day with $5 gas, and they don't have a choice because that's what the energy market has valued it at, and that's it. So and then the other thing, to your point, just about electricity and the grid and all that, natural gas is one of the biggest components of our electricity grid right now. And that has gone up exponentially.
I saw something the other day. It doubled in the last few months because you have, and what people don't realize is when you shut down coal power plants, right? And you take those megawatts out of the grid, natural gas has been a great way to be able to produce energy. But when you have high energy prices and a lack of energy in Europe, because now essentially for the next 10 years at minimum, Europe isn't buying energy from Russia.
Exactly.
Right? So let's just say it only lasts for 10 years. Where's that energy coming from to provide millions of people electricity? Right? So scrap is great, but you might start to see copper prices go to $6 or $7 a pound in the next few years. And scrappers are going to be super excited about that until they're also paying $8 a pound, or $8 a gallon for gas. Everything is balanced by something else, and higher wages will be offset by higher prices. So looking at where we're at, Mark, right? Looking at the current administration, how do you see any of the policies on energy affecting the rest of 2022 and beyond? Is there any positive news coming out there that's going to lower prices?
So I personally do not really see much of a reprieve till the end of this year with oil and gas prices. The reason being is you have, you have the Biden administration between a rock and a hard place. So they have really, really high fossil fuel prices, yet they're also trying to build out a renewable
electrify the country.
Yes, exactly.
While utilizing fossil fuel equipment to make the EV market. So keep going.
Yes.
Just pointing out the hypocrisy here.
Yeah, no, and it's true. And I mean, it would be very, I think, detrimental if the administration, or even on the federal, state level, who are trying to get these renewable goals and targets kind of in place, to start incentivizing oil and gas producers. That's going exactly against what your long-term outlook on the energy consumption for the United States is, with obviously wind power, solar power, and things like that. And then the other thing is, from an infrastructure standpoint, oil and gas, we've seen pipelines be canceled. We've seen pipelines be protested. We've seen, it's nearly impossible to create a refinery in the United States now. I mean, obviously there's existing ones that you can retrofit and things like that. But to just say I want to build a new refinery, good luck.
I read that there hasn't been a new refinery built since the mid-1980s.
Yeah,
so we're talking 30 to 40 years. And the Biden administration, again, I'm not trying to go political. We're just talking about how the prices are so high. They would have to do a complete 180 on their energy stance to realistically start to give the scrappers, the Americans, any type of relief at the pump.
Absolutely. And that's where really the crux of the argument is. It's what are you able to sacrifice in your clean energy push in order to help Americans and even the global kind of energy market for prices to fall and become more affordable. So yeah, that it's something that they're treading very lightly on the matter, and you can't.
And
really
it's so politicized.
Right? Yeah. Oh,
you sit here and you go against what you're doing. And again, I'm not talking politics. No. I'm trying to paint the picture of how we got here and where we're going, because it doesn't look like we're going in a good trajectory from what you're pointing out, from what I'm reading. And when I look at scrap prices, and to wrap up kind of where we're going to go throughout the end of the year, scrap prices could remain relatively high when it comes to non-ferrous, coppers, aluminums, and nickel-based products. We've seen a large pullback in the ferrous market, where steel prices were averaging $300 a ton in early March, and today they're around $180 a ton. So you see a massive pullback because there was an oversupply of material in 2021. There was an over push to do demolitions on buildings, right? So we had all this big steel prices, and now you have heavy energy costs. So to recycle this material, it costs way more than it did. So you might see depressed steel prices or some scrap prices for the rest of 2022 when you compare it to 2021. And this energy market is at the base of everything that we look at when it comes to metals.
Yeah, no, and I mean, just to add on to there, in terms of just any more policies that we could even think about on the state level. So, I'm based in DC, but in Maryland, they actually did a holiday gas tax where they basically stripped out the tax part of your pump price, which I think accounts for about 35% of that overall price. So that was a very, very material thing that they chose to do, but it only lasted for about 3 weeks. And then they said the state budget can't afford it anymore, even though the budget was in a surplus. So at the federal level, you're not going to have the Biden administration moving probably in the direction of supporting oil and gas. So you would hope that maybe we can look to the states to say, okay, how can we relieve our residents in some way, shape, or form at the gas pump, at the diesel pump? So
but those might be temporary. Those might be temporary policies, right? And we're not going to get into the rabbit hole. I'm going to try to wrap it up, and I'd like you to finish us off here. Energy prices are high. One of the major reasons that we're here is because of political policies driving fuel prices up, the Ukrainian and Russian conflict turning off millions of people's energy certainly isn't going to help. It's going to exacerbate the problem over years, and we could be going into the potential of an economic recession, mostly because the energy prices affect everything from plastics to fibers to your everyday fuel to your food costs. And the scrap prices, of course, are going to be affected because scrap yards are going to have to pay less because transportation is going to be higher. In your opinion, for the rest of 2022, do you see any type of reprieve coming?
Unfortunately, I really do not. The hope is if we can get through the summer and we can maybe avoid catastrophic hurricane damage, and then we get into the late fall, maybe the winter, there might be a little bit more of a plan to help Europe's energy crisis without continuing to damper the United States and our consumption. And then obviously with winter, you have less driving and it's not peak demand. But with that being said,
these are what ifs.
Yeah, these are all what ifs, and I really think that we might still be in this situation come Christmas time. So,
well, you know what? Hopefully, at the end of the summer, we can talk. We can have maybe a little bit of relief. And you know what? I've always learned in politics and in world economics and environments, where there's a problem, there are smart people that are trying to fix it, and we have to look at these things. And I want to thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing your weekly input for our weekly reports. Scrappers, every week, Mark's going to be doing a little blurb telling us what's going on in the energy crisis throughout the summer of 2022. And once we get towards the end of the summer and into the fall, we're going to start talking about these prices. Mark, thank you so much for coming on. Scrappers, if you have any questions that we didn't cover, that you want to hear how the energy prices are going to affect the metals, let us know. Because what if we said from day one here at iScrap, our job is to help you make more money. And if we can give you insight on where the markets are going, maybe you hold material that you would otherwise want to sell today, or you sell material that you would otherwise want to hold. It all stems back to where the energy prices are, and that's why we're trying to spotlight it in such a major way. So hopefully this gives you a better idea. Don't forget, there's a total of 3 podcasts that went into where we were, where we are, and how we're going in the energy markets and how it relates to scrap. This is Tom from iScrap, and until next time, scrappers, I'll scrap you later. Thanks for checking out our scrap videos. By becoming a Patreon supporter today, you'll be entered into monthly giveaways for tools and other products to help you make more money with your scrap.